guys, this video is over subtracting mixed numbers. It's very similar to subtracting fractions, but now we have regrouping just like in regular subtraction. So this first problem, 2 2/5 minus 4/5, we've got our model 1 whole, 2 wholes, and 2/5. And we want to take away 4/5, but we can't take away 4/5 because we just have 2 down here. So we are going to replace that 1 whole with 1 whole divided into 5 parts. So now we can easily go and take away the 4/5. So I'm going to start 1, 2, slipping away from me, and 3, 4. And now what I have left is 1 whole and 1, 2, 3/5. 3 3/4 minus 5/8. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and 3/4 minus 2 5/8. So I can go ahead and take away 1, 2, and then 5/8. But this is split into 4s, but I can go ahead and split it up into 8s. So then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just this 1/8 left over. So my answer would be 1 and 1/8. Now we're going to look at the actual steps and how to work out a problem without a model. Our first one is 2 2/3 minus 1 1/2. So our first step is to find a common denominator for 3 and for 2. My multiples of 3 and 2, we've got 3, 6, 9. For 2, we've got 2, 4, 6. So the first common multiple is 6. We're going to make equivalent fractions with 6 as the denominator. So 2 2/3 and 1 1/2. So 3 times 2 is 6. I have to multiply the numerator also. 2 times 2 is 4. And 2 times 3 is 6. So 1 times 3 is 3. Now I can rewrite my problem. That's 2 4/6 minus 1 3/6. The same value here, but we have our equivalent fractions. Okay. Our next step is to regroup, but we can subtract here, so we don't have to. We're just going to go ahead and subtract, so we're going to skip that step. And we're going to subtract. So we've got 2 minus 1 is 1, and 4 minus 3 is 1. Our denominator stays the same. So that's 1 1/6. And we can't simplify 1 1/6 any further, so our final answer is 1 1/6. Okay, that one was pretty easy. Let's look at the next example. Got 10 5/8 minus 5 3/4. So find a common denominator for 8 and for 4. Multiples of 4 for 8. Well, there you go. There's your common multiple. You only have to change one of the fractions. You can leave 5/8 alone. Now we've got 10 5/8 minus 5 3/4, but we're going to change it to a fraction with 8 as the denominator. 4 times 2 is 8. 2 times 3 is 6. So now I've got 10 5/8 minus 5 6/8. Here is where the regrouping comes in, because you can do 10 minus 5, definitely, but you can't do 5 minus 6. So we have to borrow from our whole number to make this numerator larger so that we can subtract the bottom numerator. How we're going to do that? We are going to regroup our whole number and change it to more 8s. So we're going to have 1 whole made up of 8s. So that would be 10 and 5/8, we can cross out the 10 and change it to a 9, but that whole didn't go away. So we're going to add 8/8 over here. So 5 plus 8 is 13. And then you've got 13/8. 9 and 13/8, which is equal to 10 and 5/8. We've just regrouped it. Then we can subtract 5 and 6/8. Now we can do 13 minus 6, and 13 minus 6 is 7. Our denominator stays the same, and then our whole number is 9 minus 5 is 4. And we can't simplify that any further, so that's 4 and 7/8 as our final answer. If we have a problem where one of the numbers doesn't have a fraction, but the other one does. Here we have 5 minus 3 and 5/6. We don't have any fractions to take away from, so you're going to take the 5 and regroup it. You're just going to rewrite it to include a fraction, turn it into a mixed number, so that you can subtract. So that would be the same as 4, and since this denominator is 6, I'm going to use 6. And how many 6 would it take to make one whole so it's still equal to 5? That would be 6. So 4 and 6/6 is equal to 5, but now I've got something I can subtract from. So then I'm going to subtract 3 and 5/6. 4 minus 3 is 1. 6 minus 5 is 1, and our denominator stays the same as 6. All right, and let's look at one more where we need to borrow. So this one is 5 and 1/2 minus 1 and 6/7. So from what I know about fractions, I already know that 1/2 is going to be less than 6/7. So I know I'm going to have to borrow on this one. But let's go ahead and find our common denominator and make equivalent fractions before we do any of that borrowing. 5 and 1/2, 1 and 6/7. Our common denominator for 2 and 7. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And for 7, 14. So 14 is going to be our common denominator here. Let's make our equivalent fractions with 14 as the denominator. Remember, the reason we want that denominators to be the same is so that we are comparing the same sized pieces. So 7 times 2 is 14, 6 times 2 is 12, and then 2 times 7 is 14, and 1 times 7 is 7. So now we've got 5 and 7/14 minus 1 and 12/14. Okay, I know that I cannot do 7 minus 12, so I have to borrow from the 5. So we are going to rewrite 5 and 7/14. We're going to cross the 5 out, change it to a 4, and we're going to rewrite that whole number as 14/14. We're using that same denominator that we have so that we can easily add that whole number. Okay, 7 plus 14 is 21, so we've got 21/14. I know that's kind of weird because now we've got an improper fraction, but that's because we want to subtract from that. Now that number is large enough for us to subtract from. So 4 and 21/14 minus 1 and 12/14. And when we subtract that, we've got 21 minus 12 is 9. So that's 9, and our denominator stays the same as 14. And 4 minus 1 is 3. So we've got 3 and 9/14. And we can't simplify that any further, so that's our final answer. And there is one more way that I wanted to show you how you could work out a problem. Let's start with 4 and 1/3 minus 2 and 3/5. First thing we want to do is find a common denominator. I'm going to use 15. So 4 and 1/3 times 5, 1 times 5 is 5, so that's 5/15. And then 2 3/5, so times 3 equals 15. 3 times 3 is 9. Now I've got 5 minus 9, so I know I'm going to have to regroup. So another option is to take it and turn it in them both into improper fractions. So here we're going to take 15 times 4, which is 60, and 60 plus 5, so that would give us 65 over 15. And then for this one, 2 times 15 is 30, and then 30 plus 9 is 39 over 15. And then you can subtract those numbers. 65 minus 39, that's 15, so that's 6, and that's 26. So then I've got 65 minus 39 equals 26 over 15, which is still an improper fraction, and I have to change it to a mixed number. So 26 divided by 15, that would be 1, and 26 minus 15 is 11, so that's 1 11/15. So then my final answer is 1 11/15. So sometimes that might be a better option for you. It just depends on how big the numbers get and if that makes more sense to you.